Okay, today I'm going to do another how I do stuff video on how I paint my trucks, my railcar trucks and wheels. And I might get into my couplers too, but that's really nothing worth showing probably. Um, but I've mentioned several times over the course of my videos about how I like to focus on painting uh, railcar trucks and wheels before I do anything else. And you can see from example here, this is a darker silver, I guess, or aluminum color that some of these cars come in. I'm not sure what brand this is. It might be a Walthers. But then here's a more typical one that stands out the most to me, where you have black plastic trucks and bright silver wheels and axles. And of any part of a rail car that stands out the most to me, it's these, because these really just glaringly show, hey, this is just a toy. This is definitely not real. And so what I want to get to, sorry, I had to break away for a second to get an example car. What I want to get to is this. So you can see the difference there between painted and not painted. And there's the axles there. And this is actually a pre-painted coupler here, so I'm not going to have to mess with that one. And it didn't even come with a brake hose, so don't have to mess with those or trip pin, whereas this one did, and that one's painted up. So the commercial one's a little bit brighter than I would like. That's the color that I use. But anyway, I'm going to get into how I do this, and we'll get right to that. Hang on. So the tools I have are pretty simple. I just use this Tester's paint. I don't know if you can see this or not. Looks like you might be able to. This is called Flat Rust, and this is just your typical Tester's bottle you get at Hobby Town, or Hobby Lobby actually. Hobby Town I don't think sells Testers anymore, if they ever did. And then this is just a small brush with a pretty thin brush head. Not much to it. You don't want to get a lot of paint globbed on, but what I also have is my trucks that I've already pulled off, and you'll see that here in a second. And then I've just got the separate wheel axles here for those for our single car. So what I'll do here, see if I can back this out just a little. And you obviously want to make sure that the paint isn't too thick because it'll glob it on, but if it's too thin, it won't stick to these metal wheels. So I'll just go through it here real quick. And then what I'll do is I'll do half the axle at a time, because obviously you have to hold something. And if you try to touch the part that's wet, you're just going to end up wiping it off the metal. So I just do half of these at a time. And I put my glasses on, hang on. Now I know that there is a tool out there where you can put a set of these and do a whole set of axles at one time. And I'm sure it's an awesome tool. I have never tried using that myself. There's probably no good reason not to use it. I couldn't say. I've never tried it. So it might be, obviously it's a lot quicker to do that. You can just spray paint those real quick. I don't mind doing it this way. I can usually knock out a half pair of axles in about 15 minutes. So, and I find it really relaxing when I'm not trying to shoot a video of myself doing it. So I don't mind doing it that way. It's a nice routine break from everything else on the model railroad. So I just do it that way. But anyway, all you can see here is I'm just covering every piece of shiny metal that I can see. I try not to get anything on the tip of the axle there, just because I think paint might gum up the bearing aspect of the truck, so it doesn't roll very smoothly. And then on the edge of the wheel here, I'll just kind of dab the brush, and it looks like a splotchy mess right now, but I swear when it dries, you can't even tell any of that. So you don't have to worry about that. And obviously I'm dabbing it on like this. I don't want to get any paint on the treads. If I do, I can usually just wipe it off on the paper towel like this. And if not, it'll either come off on its own, or, it'll need to be cleaned at some point, but it's not that big a deal. It's not going to paint your track or anything. It might gum up your track, but we all have to clean our track on a regular basis anyway, so not a big deal there. And I'm just going to show you how I do a single half of an axle, because then after that it's just repeat and repeat. So I've got this part done. Now I'll flip it over, and with my finger on the end of the axle, I'll just hold it in place while I do the back of the wheel. And you have to do the back of the wheel because it definitely reflects light. Even if you can't really see, it stands out like a sore thumb. And again, I don't worry about how gloppy it is to some degree, because it will dry flat and you won't be able to tell that at all. All right, so that's pretty well done. And then I'll just lay it flat, and then pinching it with, let's see if I can get an angle on this here. With my thumbs, I'll get the whole axle. Now, plastic axles are obviously a lot easier to do than metal axles. But again, I'm not trying to paint it like with brush strokes. I'm just dabbing the paint on. And that gets it to stick, and you're not just wiping it off after you wipe it on. And I just kind of slowly roll it until I make sure I've gotten all of it. All right, I think that's covered. So that's a single axle that I'll do in one session. I'll do all four like that. I'll do the halves. And then once that dries, then I can flip around and do the other side without getting any paint anywhere. And so that's how I do that. So here in a minute, I'm going to show you how I do the axles. All right, so here's a single truck that I've got pulled off with no wheels on it. Not a big deal. I'm going to show you how I spray paint that using a Tamiya spray paint in my paint booth here in just a second. All right, one other thing I was going to point out was, you saw me earlier painting the face of the wheel, this front edge here. You don't necessarily have to paint that. And the reason for that is, if your rail car has been through a hump yard recently, the retarders that brake the car as it's going down the hill press against this outer edge of the wheel, and then wear any rust or any dirt or whatever off of that and make it nice and bright and shiny as those things press against the car to slow it down as it's going down the hill. So if you wanted to leave those outer parts shiny, you can see there it's super shiny, then that would be perfectly acceptable for prototypical a look. Now those will probably definitely weather over time as they get wet again or dirt on them or whatever, but again, if it's been through a hump yard recently and that's been slowed down by those retarders, that's what will make that shiny again. So you don't have to necessarily paint, this outer edge here. Okay, for the trucks, I use the Tamiya spray paint rattle cans, some people call them. This color, this red-brown color, I think this works really good for a combination of that rust, but it's not overly rusted. It's just that one solid red-brown color. So that's what I use for my trucks. So I'm going to get set up in my paint booth here and show you how I do that. right, now with our truck on the left painted, you can see the difference between the one on the left all painted up, the wheel sets, and then the one on the right. This is how it comes out of the box. It's a huge difference. So I really encourage anybody who maybe doesn't have a lot of money to spend in the hobby. This is a $2.69 bottle of paint that probably lasts me, I don't know, 20 cars, 30 cars that I can do. So this would be a quick, real easy way to really sharpen up how your rail cars look on your layout without doing anything else. And it's just a single color of paint, just a small little brush. You don't have to really learn any weathering techniques, but you can see the difference that it makes. So that's all I have for now on how I weather my rail car trucks and wheels. Thanks for watching.